Hey everybody! So today I'm going to talk about how we made our water shader. Water in games often looks quite amazing, and I think that good-looking water is basically a must for a game. Because our own story takes place on an island, water is a very important feature. You are basically surrounded by water at all times. We also wanted to add these tiny little rocky streams and little lakes that are so typical of the northern landscape. So what we needed most was a good water shader, but because we're cheap and broke and we never choose the easy way, we decided not to buy it from the asset store, but rather make our own shader in Unity. Plus it makes it easier for us to tweak it ourselves if we had any new ideas or if we just fall out of love with it one day. We have never made our own shaders in Unity before, so or rather Eugene, started watching tons of YouTube videos that covered dozens of different ways to create water. These videos normally featured all these absolutely ginormous node trees that just make you very, very sad. That luckily Eugene is into that shit. There were several key features that we wanted our shader to have. We decided that we want the water transparent, and we also wanted that feeling of depth, so we wanted the shallows and the deep zones look visibly different. Refraction was the other thing. We wanted all the objects under the water to refract beautifully. And then there is foam. We wanted to add some foam along the shores and objects in water, and also add a little bit of foam to the water surface to mark the currents, how the water moves, but not too much so that it doesn't look like pollution. So we kind of broke down these problems that we need to solve into several groups, and Eugene started building a ginormous node tree in Unity. The coolest thing about water shaders is probably the depth fade effect. The depth fade effect changes colors smoothly based on how deep something is or how far away it is from the camera. It is great for making water look darker as it gets deeper, or making objects fade away as they move further. So here's how it works in simple steps. Finding directions and distance. The shader figures out which way you're looking and how far each pixel is from the camera. Adjusting with depth. The shader uses this depth to tweak the direction and position of each pixel. Creating the fade effect. The depth is adjusted to create a smooth fade effect, keeping the value between 0 and 1. Blending colors. Finally, a special node blends between a deep color and a shallow color, based on the clamped depth value. Depth effect is cool and we love it, but what makes water real is the refraction and how the objects kind of bend and twist below the water surface. So that is why we added a bunch of nodes in our shader graph to create that sweet refraction effect. This part of our shader graph creates a dynamic refraction effect based on the specified flow direction, refraction parameters, and depth. Direction calculation. It starts by figuring out which way the water is flowing, and then it does some math to get a smooth direction curve. Refraction processing. Then it takes the flow direction and changes the way things look by adding some wavy patterns. So this makes it look like the water is bending light. Now, when we finished putting this whole thing together, we found this huge bug. All the objects that happened to be between the camera and the water were now also outlined in foam. All the fir trees covered in foam like some weird Christmas decoration. It was time to get to Googling again and building yet another giant node tree. And it was quite successful. Now you can see that foam only generates on water surfaces. Next part of our shader graph makes a cool effect that looks like foamy edges on the water. And here's how it works. So it starts by deciding how much foam to add using the edge foam amount value. Then the graph checks how deep the water is to figure out where the foam should be. It uses the edge foam cutoff to decide the cutoff point. To make the foam look more realistic, it adds some wavy movement using time and a bit of noise, and this makes the foam look like it's moving and bubbling. Finally, we need to add some foam color. It picks a foam color and multiplies it with the other effects to blend everything together. In this last big part of the graph, we add some foam that floats on the surface of the water, and it helps to make the current more noticeable. To start, just like with the refraction, we set the flow direction and normalize it. Then, we define the water speed and boldly multiply and blend it all in here. So this part of the graph uses noise and UV coordinates to generate a pattern that resembles foam on the water surface. After adding all the effects, we want to restore some of the original color to the underwater objects, because even the brightest and most vivid objects now look dull. To fix this, we'll add a small branch of nodes, where we mix the original color of the objects after refraction with the color after applying all the effects. And finally, our entire island is covered in a light mist, but right now it doesn't affect our water. So let's add a fog effect to our shader so that the rivers and lakes also fade into the distance. Now that's everything. We've combined all parts of the shader graph into one massive tree with dozens of nodes. We have a lot of settings for our water and all the features we wanted before, and it seems that we finally understand how this tree of nodes and lines works. All that is left is to set the right parameters for the material, choose the right colors for the shallow and deep water, adjust the foam refraction strength, and the water is ready. But wait! Just as we finished our shader, a new idea popped into our heads: waterfalls. Waterfalls are amazing and we need some. Of course, adding waterfalls means diving into more nodes and settings for our water shader. But hey, that's a tale for another time, so please stay with us and we'll tell you all about it.